Well, it looks like finally I am on the air. Good night, brothers and sisters. You cannot believe the effort that this took. I started this effort yesterday around 9:30, shortly after the news broke regarding the passing of one of the most reputable prime ministers Barbados has had today. Update from independence. But we have aligned ourselves with organizations that are wicked and are willing to carry out any instruction that impedes communication between a people. This is where we're at. We might as well get it. Because the same Facebook that is giving us so much trouble, the same Facebook on whose instructions, that is not difficult to figure out. But the same Facebook is not doing it in the United States of America, not to any significant degree. But instead, they come to the Piritlers in the Caribbean and other places who are trying to stifle opinion. And they are only too willing to shut you down, short circuit you, or block your efforts out. Under some guise about community well-being and all this kind of stuff. Now, please tell me, like I asked them, I am a Barbadian. A Barbadian has passed. A Barbadian leader has passed. And we are paying tribute to that. And you're telling us that that is interfering with community comfort. And I hope that these things are looked at, because later on, I hope we understand why we are going to have to find alternative methods of interaction. And we must do something. We must do something about it. We must do something about it. It cannot be all right for this to continue. It cannot be all right. Okay, no, sir. Yes, sir. It cannot be all right. Okay, well, Barbadians, I hope today has been a lot better for you. Of course, with the passing of our former Prime Minister, I'm sure things are a lot dampened, as indeed even in my own life, even in my time today, it has been. And so what we're going to do tonight, bedded on the hearts and minds of his people, Barbados. Like most of the leaders around his time, the late Honorable Errol Barrow, Luke, and let's put Tom Adams in there as well. Luke Sandiford had a love and affection for the people of Barbados beyond measure. He was, as I said at one time, he was a Bajan to the bone. When you look at leadership provided by Luke Sandiford and Barrow and those guys, you saw the love of the people first, and then they entertain any plan, any contract, any position, because the late great E.W. Barrow who always had an eye for talent and ability and potential, locked in on him. And they were to make a pair that was inseparable up until the passing of Mr. Barrow himself. Mr. Sandiford was a man that taught us, many of us. As you know, he taught at Commermere and some other places where he did some part-time work, tutorials and everything else. And he taught at community college. And he had this fella here as one of his students. As a matter of fact, that is how it began back in 1976, 77. And it was from there, so that you are not there on behalf of yourself, but you are there representing a mass of people who cannot be there for themselves. And always, and I guess it was something that I had to hear, because back then, I mean, hey, I could tell a lie now. I could tell a lie. And he would always say, the only thing that would pull you down from public office is being untruthful. He said that even when you were not pulled down prematurely, that dishonesty, that behavior will catch up with you. And he said, I've always chosen to stand on the truth. And I was the only one left, because at some point they lost themselves. But Mr. Sandiford would grow and develop and would encourage everybody around him. It was no surprise when I heard Mr. Barrow say, it is me, it is Luke Sandiford, and any number can play after that. In other words, he was Mr. Barrow's heir apparent. And that was the kind of respect and regard that our first Prime Minister had for Luke Sandiford. And needless to say, with Mr. Barrow's passing, Mr. Sandiford was and even as he left. Because you see, one of the things that has always been very clear, one of the things that has always been very clear is that he understood people. He understood people. And unfortunately, the Democratic Labour Party has always had these kind of things happening. The disloyalties and everything have always been in and out. And it is one of the things that will need to be addressed at some point. Strategic places in our country. You have a whole ton of privatizations as dictated by the IMF. And these things are going up for sale, and who are buying them? I'm saying all of this to say that men of the ilk of Erskine Sandiford, we cannot afford to give up right now, even though we must. Because we are going to need that wisdom. We are going to need that experience. We are going to need that goodwill. We are going to need that love of country and people. We are going to need guidance back home. And this is why, and they would stand for what is truly Barbadian. Just like their teachers would expect them. I once heard Mr. Sandiford remarking, and this was around 1980-81, remarking on the whole idea of qualifications. And that's why whenever I hear this thing, it takes me back there. And I remember him saying that it is time that we start looking at the quality of people rather than the certifications that they have attained. And I recall when he wrote my first reference. Academically, I wasn't bad, not at all. But in it, he said, we're coming about. And this was in 1977, folks. So when I was reading, he would stop me and he would say, yeah, you see, and this is how them people do. He would start this little shake, you know. And of course, the classroom went crazy. You know, and he would comment on it and he would tell us, and he would start sharing a little bit of his time and bring us forward. And he would always keep us in a place where we understood not where we were, but how we got there, so that we understand where we are to go. And so I saw the little jig. And one Saturday I was in, you know, you come up through the street and, you know, you go straight across to Hunter and you drink some beer and everything and hang out on Saturday. But just before you get through the street where Kentucky is, had this little eatery upstairs. So I said, well, let me go up there and, you know, drink him. Because there was nothing about him that cut us up in classes and all kinds of stuff. Nothing. Very easy guy. As a matter of fact, I tell you this. I remember he had that Datsun. I think it was a 260 Datsun, a white Datsun. S1024, I believe it is. And he had that throughout his public life. You know, so with his passing, yes, we are going to celebrate. Yes, we are going to, you know, reflect on so many things, so many words, so many messages that he gave. But I hope sincerely that we reflect on the quality of man that he was. Because that is what is going to inform us. That position and that decision as a very pivotal moment in the economy of Barbados. Many years later, when that question was asked, I still have the little answer taken out, because I'm a record keeper. I keep stuff because we need to know who we were so that we could explain who we are. And when we could explain who we are, we will understand what it is, what our potential is to who we will be. And when he was interviewed, he said, one only has to put the people of Barbados in front of our own purposes, and you'll come up with the right answer. Did we get here? Sound really like Arabara in those years, isn't it? And as he talked, he was to repeat that question many times, up to a couple of years ago. And it is a serious question that must be answered. How did we get here? What did we do or not do that brought us to this position? At some point, men and women have to stand up for what is right, not only before the, not just before the public side, but in the absence of the public. That behavior, Mr. Sandiford, my teacher, mentor, fellow comrade. He's left me and many, many thousands of others in a very thoughtful place tonight and in the days and weeks ahead. Because for his passing, for his work to be meaningful, it's going to take people who are willing to take these things apart and pull out from them those values, those qualities, those tidbits that will make them better servants of the people. And in that way, his passing would be more than the glitter becoming better public servants or better people offering themselves for public service. I personally know too many people who are willing to talk their way in and out of whatever shows up to satisfy their opportunistic goals. And many of us are in that position. And we must have the pluck to stand against it. We must have the pluck to say that this is not in the interest of the people. You see, the minute you leave the people and their well-being, it is not difficult to go off into your self-aggrandizement. It is my hope that Lloyd, Erskine, Luke Sandiford left us to see that the essence of life is service. And nothing that begins with self has any portend to others' well-being. I thank you that in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead, my efforts will resemble yours. They don't have to be yours. We are different people. And the last thing you want is a caricature of you. You don't want that. I know that. 45 years is a long time. I thank you for helping me understand the party, what it stood for, how important the people were. I thank you for taking time and doing what was 10, 15 pages of the Constitution Department to a place where it recognizes that nasty behavior and hypocrisy and deception and all have no place in human affairs. It is there. It doesn't have a place. For I remember you saying that politics is a very good sport. It is the practitioners that can make it a nasty sport. And yes, I listened, I admired, and I loved. And I will continue to treasure your moment, your memory, as all Barbadians and most Barbadians will. For you left us with much to ponder, much to think about. So, sir,